So this is going to be another movie review. This one's called Beast from Haunted Cave. 1959 horror heist film directed by Monte Hellman, who directed The Great Two-Lane Blacktop, starring Michael Forrest, Frank Wolff, and Richard Sinatra. I'm giving it 3 out of 5 stars. I thought it was all right. It was produced by Gene Corman, Roger Corman's brother. Filmed in South Dakota at the same time as Ski Troop Attack, which I have not seen. It tells the story of bank robbers fleeing in the snow who run afoul of a giant spider-like monster that feeds on humans. That has to be the most hideous, horrendous looking monster that I've ever seen. The movie poster doesn't do it any justice. And you got to wait until the end of the movie to see the monster. So I would say skip the first 55 minutes. Fast forward to the last 10 minutes. Screaming young girl sucked into a labyrinth of horror by a blood-starved ghoul from hell. That's a janky looking movie poster. It looks terrible. The film was released as a double feature with The Wasp Woman, also in 1959, which I have seen and reviewed. The movie began an association between Roger Corman and Monte Hellman that lasted for 15 years. Hellman would work on several of Corman's films, and he would finance several movies that Hellman would direct. Group of criminals led by the ruthless Alexander Ward hatch a plan to steal gold bars from a bank vault in Deadwood, South Dakota. Ward sends one of his henchmen, Marty Jones, to set an explosion in a nearby gold mine. The detonation will act as a diversion for their heist. Although Marty, accompanied by local barmaid Natalie, succeeds in setting off the explosion, he encounters a beast in the mine. The beast kills Natalie, but Marty escapes with his life. The next morning, the explosive goes off as planned, and Marty and his gang succeed in stealing gold bars from the vault. Led by a local guide named Gil Jackson, they set off to a remote cabin where they hope to be picked up by a plane. Gil is initially unaware of their plans. He becomes suspicious when he hears reports of robbery on the radio and discovers that they're carrying handguns. They reach the cabin without incident, but once there, a violent snowstorm delays the plane's arrival. Marty's secretary, Gypsy, is taken with the young Gil, tells him that Marty plans to kill him once the plane arrives. Gil and Gypsy take off back to town together. Marty, who still carries unpleasant memories of his encounter with the beast, has all the while been concerned about being followed. He encounters the beast again during the trip to the cabin, but his companions think he's losing his mind. Eventually, however, they become convinced of the beast's reality when they see it attack Marty's other henchman, Byron. Despite their fear of further attacks, the gang is set on tracking down Gil and Gypsy before they reach town. So they head to a nearby cave. Another snowstorm forces Gil and Gypsy to take shelter in the cave as well, which turns out to be the lair of the beast. What a coincidence. In the final struggle, the beast kills the remaining gang members. And I don't want to spoil the ending. Monte Hellman, about his experience on being hired to direct the film. I first met Roger through his wife, Barbara Morris, who had acted in some of his movies. I got him to invest $1,000 in a theater company that we put together. Eventually, we were shut down, and Roger said, "You should take this as a sign to do something else." He hired me on the spot to direct Beast from Haunted Cave. and he paid me $1,000. We didn't have a contract or anything, just a handshake. And Roger's handshake was better than most people's contracts. In the mid-1950s, film producer and director Roger Corman, along with his brother and fellow producer Gene Corman, hired then theater director Hellman to direct a film from a screenplay by Roger Corman, regular Griffith. Oh, I forgot to put Griffith's name in the description. Shame on me. According to Griffith, Corman was motivated by the success of Naked Paradise. He said, Roger said, I want Naked Paradise using a gold mine instead of a pineapple plantation, put it in South Dakota, and add a monster. I didn't know how to add a monster to that script, so I had it all wrapped up in a cocoon in the cave, just threatening to break loose all the time. I don't know how it happened. That became Beast from Haunted Cave. Monte Hellman said, what interests me about it was that it really wasn't a monster movie. Roger liked Key Largo very much. I think that was one of his favorite movies. He kept making Key Largo, just different versions of it. In this case, he had a monster to it. Both of the Cormans had grown tired of filming in Bronson Canyon and the Los Angeles Arboretum and wanted to film in new locations in future films. This would also enable them to hire crews out of Chicago at a cheaper rate than Los Angeles. After getting information from the Chamber of Commerce in South Dakota, they decided to film in South Dakota's Black Hills. Black Hills themselves turned out to be too difficult to film. Gene Corman considered a mine and led South Dakota, then found a disused mine at Deadwood. To amortize costs, Roger Corman produced another film, Ski Troop Attack, at the same time on the same location, utilizing the same screenwriter and lead actors. The two films took 5 weeks in all to shoot, with 1 day off between films, and Beast was shot first. The unit was based at the Franklin Hotel. The film's cast was mostly comprised of Corman regulars. Wolff was in Atlas, Campo, Forrest Sinatra, cousin to famous actor and singer Frank Sinatra, and Noonan. Alstrand, Playboy's Playmate of the Month for July 1958, also played a minor role in the film as Natalie, the barmaid. Michael Forrest says he was paid $500 a week, and he recalls what was taking place was tough on us physically. Shooting took 13 days. Gene Corman said this was the first time I had tried to shoot in snow, and it was very difficult, but the picture had a whole new look. Hellman says, it wasn't fun to make at all. It was my first film, and we had 13 days to shoot, and by noon of the first day, we hadn't gotten a shot because the equipment was all frozen. It was 10 degrees below zero, and we couldn't get anything to run. Roger Corman, who was the executive producer, was screaming on the phone that if we didn't get our first day's quota, he was going to be on a plane the next day and take over the picture. We managed to get it working. The sound was a little bit off speed, but we were able to correct it. Scenes in the cave were filmed in an abandoned mine in Deadwood, where the crew was allowed to film. While shooting scenes in the cave that required actors to use guns, the sound reverberating from the fired ammunition would sometimes cause parts of the cave's ceiling to break off, which made some of the cast and crew members nervous while working on location. Other problems arose while filming in the mine, as the air became very stale to the point where the crew had to pump air into the cave. The problem was never completely solved due to improper equipment. Special effects maestro Paul Blaisdell claimed in interviews that Roger Corman pleaded with him to design and create the film's monster, but the film's budget was so minuscule, Blaisdell turned him down immediately, saying that Corman didn't even offer him enough money to cover the cost of the materials he needed to build the creature. Blaisdell said he never worked for Roger Corman after that. The monster of the film was eventually designed and portrayed by actor Chris Robinson, who would later star in General Hospital. Robinson offered to do the job for free if he received on-screen credit for special effects and even pay for the materials himself. Swap woman? You mean wasp woman? Anyways, Adrian's in the chat room. He retracted a message. Yeah, Wasp Woman was decent, much better. If I had to watch a double bill, I think I'd prefer Wasp Woman over this one. Anyways, according to Robinson, the design of the beast, which nicknamed Humpress, was based on a wingless hanging fly. In order to create the creature's skeletal form, Robinson added aluminum stripping to a plywood base. Then he covered the frame with chicken wire before wrapping it in sheets and muslin. He then soaked the frame in vinyl paint in order to waterproof the design, since it had to be used in the snow. The creature's head was fashioned out of a 1/4-inch aluminum wire, which was encased in steel wire and wrapped in muslin. The creature's fangs and teeth were also constructed with aluminum wire. Robinson then placed putty and patches of crepe hair onto the design before adding spun glass and Christmas tree tinsel in order to give it a cobwebby appearance. They literally spent $2 at the dime store, said Hellman. It was mostly angel hair and paper mache monster. Forrest said, I kept looking at it and thinking, this doesn't scare me at all. But it was supposed to. I guess Chris was doing the best he could under the circumstances, trying to make this thing walk when he could hardly move in it. Roger Corman recalls the shoot as a very tough challenge. It was unbelievably cold and snowed all the time. Hellman says he was paid to write, edit, and direct, but he was unable to edit since he was not in the union, which was IA out of Chicago. He added, fools plunge in, I did it. And I probably made more mistakes than the average person who makes a first film. I didn't really have any help, and I wouldn't take any help. I had to do it on my own. Once I made my first film, I considered myself a filmmaker. I lost all interest in theater and never went back. Sequel for the film was planned, which would have resolved the fate of the surviving characters, but it was soon canceled, resulting in the film's open ending. The film was released through Film Group on a double bill with The Wasp Woman. Hellman claimed to have received 2% of the profits, which he said came to $400 over the next 5 years. In a contemporary review, the Monthly Review Bulletin noted that despite substantially dissimilar to most monster pieces, the film had few positive virtues. The review also commented on uneven acting and direction. The first 55 minutes is boring as heck. I'm sorry to say. It's tough to get through. Time Out gave the film a negative review, calling it routine with nothing to distinguish it from any other grade Z horror pick of the 50s. Alan Jones of the Radio Times rated the film 2 out of 5 stars, noting that what he called the film's flair and imagination by director Monte Hellman, while also stating that it was a painless, cost-conscious effort typical of producer Roger Corman. Leonard Maltin awarded the film a mixed 2 out of 4 stars, calling it a remake of Naked Paradise with a monster added in. 3 years later, Roger Corman asked Hellman to edit 4 pictures for TV. They have been a little over 60 minutes, and he needed them to be 80 minutes for a sale to Allied Artists TV. He shot extra scenes for Beast from Haunted Cave, Creature from the Haunted Sea, Last Women on Earth, and Ski Troop Attack. I had fun. I was autonomous, and Roger Corman didn't care what I shot. Hellman says the stock was different. I used whatever actors were still available. On March 20th, 2001, Beast from Haunted Cave was released for the first time on DVD by Madison as part of his Killer Creatures double feature pack alongside The Brain That Wouldn't Die. Great movie that I saw years ago and I never reviewed. Madison would later re-release the film in 2004 as a part of another multi-feature pack. In 2002, a special extended version of the film was released by Synapse Video on March 26, followed by an additional release from Alpha Video on October 22nd. Alpha Video would re-release the film twice in 2003 as part of a multi-feature film packs. The film was re-released on 4 separate occasions by Platinum Disc in 2005 for various multi-feature film packs, with his final release on September 13th distributed by Genius Entertainment. Over the next several years, the film was re-released several times by different distributors until its final release as part of a 3-disc multi-feature film pack by Echo Bridge Home Entertainment on September 1st, 2015. And here comes more comments from Adrian. I'm so dang tired. Right now it's midnight. And I just got off work. My last day at Axiom Hotel, that musty smelling hotel in the worst part of San Francisco. I don't think I'll be working there again unless somebody calls out sick or something. Anyways, I got a couple of discs. I'm not going to go through my list again. Spend 10 minutes going down that list. But I'll show you a couple of my Netflix discs. I will say that I did add the package with Gene Hackman Karate Man recommendation to my list. Here's Fear Makers collection. Disc 3. There's the Fear Makers collection. This is what I got to look forward to tomorrow. And this is Nightmares in Red, White, and Blue. Kino Lorber. 2009. Another horror film documentary thingy mabobber. Nightmares in Red, White, and Blue. A couple cool looking discs, both documentaries. And that's the end of my review. I'm at 18 minutes. Adrian is posting comments that he needs to stop drinking so that he can spell wasp woman. I guess. I don't know. I didn't like Attack of the Giant Leeches. He says The Brain That Wouldn't Die is on Tubi. Tubi must be an Australian thing because both Adrian and Karate Man love Tubi. To be or not to be? That's the question. Anyways, I'm just snacking on these chewy caramels. They're not too chewy. They're kind of tough. Having a little snack before I hit the hay. Before I hit the hay, not the head. Well, I think I'm gonna munch on some Sour Patch watermelon. because I'm still hungry. And I don't feel like cooking pizza. I'm going to save it for my son. Anyways, my checking account is down to $700. I'm doomed. I'm only working 40 hours a week next week. Unless I can pick somebody else's shift up from my previous employer, my current employers, valet parking employers. It's all very confusing. I'm switching from one valet parking company to another valet parking company. But I don't think I've been terminated from my old company yet. They might call me in on occasion when somebody calls in sick. All right. Well, that's the end of my review. I'm not going to go through my list. Otherwise, my video is going to be over 30 minutes and nobody will watch it except for Adrian, Karate Man, and Professor Quiz. Later.